All good. Okay, awesome. Hello, hello. We are back. We are back. You guys, tech things happen all the time and it's craziness. I'm just waiting over here to get the live. Ah, there it is. Okay, welcome back you guys. It's Lily's News. It's Friday. It's a little after 5, but don't worry about that. The time doesn't matter. What matters is the stuff, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So, um today we have to talk about, I have to pull up my document again. We have so This week was absolutely bonkers. There was so much that happened. There were so many things that went um in a different way than we all even expected. So starting off, R.I.P. Steve Harwell, singer Smash Mouth. Um, Gone too soon. That's so sad. So that's that's it. Burning Man was a hot topic in the news um for like the whole time. So Burning Man happens out in the middle of the desert. What is it? I think it's like northwest Nevada or something like that. It's in the middle of nowhere. Same place it's always been for a good amount of time, since I think 95 was the first Burning Man. So Burning Man happened and it rained. We all saw that it rained. It rained like 2 years worth of water in a night or something, which caused complete chaos, complete mayhem. And it was unforeseen. But you know the motto that burners say, which is you get the burn that you need, not the burn that you want. Hi, Crystalline. How are you? We are back. Hello, hello. Let me just pull some things up here, just because we are back. And so just give me 1 second to get this back up. Perfect. Oh, no, we want this one. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so bye. So Burning Man was an absolute disaster. There was one fatality. We were told that it wasn't a fatality due to the rain and the cold and the weird mud that like builds. You know that type of snow that you step on and it constantly builds underneath your shoes as you're walking, and then you just have like a boulder of snow underneath your feet. So that's basically what the mud was out there. And there was a lot of rumors going around like Ebola was a thing. There's no Ebola, thank God. But there are a lot of like skin diseases you're able to get if your bare skin is in contact with this really like alkaline minerally mud for too long, and if you're not showering and if you're not like actually cleansing your body with like actual soap that people use instead of just the dirty buckets of water. I saw a video. Oh, this girl, she was at Burning Man, she pays for the showers, and I saw a video of her taking a shower, well, going to take the shower, and you have to fill this bucket up and it's just dirty, murky, crust filled water, and you're showering with it. And I could never. There's such a weird energy, a weird vibe at Burning Man that it feels very much LARPing as a homeless person, and you're so far from homeless that it's so disrespectful. Burning Man used to be for the normal everyday human to escape the reality, to escape the grips of the man, consumerism, capitalism, and to get away, to create your own city, to create your own space, to jam out, to seep in the art and the experience and the energy and the time and the vibe and and everything. But now it's turned into, these like Silicon Valley dudes, the bros with money up the wazoo, flying in lobster and creating the most mess, all the mess. There's so much trash, especially now that everyone kind of just en masse just left everything because of the mud. Once they were able to leave, they left, and they left so much trash. And this is why I think there was a sign. They had a sign when the protesters blocked the roads. Remember this? Right before, when everyone was going to Burning Man, there was protesters blocking the road, and you would see, it was like miles and miles of caravans and trucks and SUVs and RVs just backed up. And then all of a sudden, like, a sheriff comes barreling through this roadblock that these protesters set up because of the negative impact that Burning Man has on not just the surrounding area, but also the environment as a whole. And I thought that was really interesting foreshadowing from just humans who care, because this happened. So Burning Man was pretty much a bust. I think they did finally get a night to burn the man. Good on ya, I guess. Congratulations. You did the thing. And hopefully you don't have a communicable skin disease afterwards. So that was Burning Man, pretty much summed up in the news. Burning Man in the news. Let's do our 8 passengers update. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Ruby, Frankie, Jody, what is her last name? Jody something. Jody Hildebrandt. Jody Hildebrandt. So they two were business partners. We talked about it last week. They two were business partners. Ruby Frankie was the mom of the 8 Passengers YouTube channel. So it was her husband Kevin. His name is now Frankie. That would be hilarious. Kevin and their 6 children. Currently, their 2 oldest children. One is an adult, and she is living her life. No contact with her mom because of how she was raised, which is fair. And her oldest son, we believe, has been living with their dad, Kevin. Now, Ruby, it came out, so there's a lot of information that came out between last Friday and today. Ruby, Frankie, and Kevin Frankie have kind of silently separated. They were not living in the same home. So Kevin was living with the oldest son and maybe another child or 2, and Ruby was, I guess, essentially living with Jody, because this is where her 2 youngest children were tortured. They were tortured. It was torture. It wasn't, whoops, we forgot dinner one night. It was straight torture. So the son that escaped, 12-year-old, I will not say his name. That's just not fair. His name is being said too much already. Leave this little boy alone. But we can tell the story, the heroic story of this little 12-year-old boy who escaped pretty much the desert of Utah. I mean, it's just empty plains. So this 12-year-old boy escaped the home of Jody because it wasn't their home. It wasn't Ruby's home. Ruby wouldn't call the house that her children lived in the children's home anyway. It's Ruby's space, we all know. So Jody, her business partner, had the 2 youngest, 10-year-old and 12-year-old, in their house. The little 12-year-old boy escaped, walked a good ways, potentially knocked on multiple other doors, but found himself at one of the neighbors' house and was begging for food and water. I'm starving. I'm thirsty. My wrists and ankles hurt, obviously, because they've been duct taped. These children were malnourished to an extreme extent. These children were unfed, unwatered, just uncared for by 2 grown women, one with actual psychology education, essentially, and who claimed to be good enough parents to give parenting advice. Unfortunate. So this child knocks on this door, they answer, and they see the injuries, the wounds, the lacerations, the just state, the disheveled state that this child is in, and they call the cops. Now there is audio of the police interactions over the radio, so like the 911 phone call and the interactions between different police officers and like EMS and everything are available. It is public information. It's a little bit is hard to hear, and a little bit of it is hard to listen to. It's really heartbreaking to have all of these adults kind of on like a level of confusion. Like they're confused. Like these adults, these police officers, these law enforcement individuals are confused. Like what is happening? Like we don't know. We're getting this name, we're getting this neighbor, and then they come to a realization that this person, Ruby Franke, the mother of these children, this was not the first time that her name has been spoken into like a dispatch. So there was a couple of times. One time that mainly is being talked about is when one of Ruby Franke's neighbors actually called the cops and Child Protective Services because the youngest daughter, who may have been like 8 at the time, was wandering around the neighborhood during the day, like middle of the day, knocking on doors, asking for people to play with, like other little kids to play with. And so there was so much confusion. There was so much concern for this little girl because, like, one, why are you alone, and why aren't you in school? You should be in school. My kids aren't here because they're in school. Why aren't you in school? And it turned out that Ruby Franke took the kids out of school to homeschool them, which just gives her more power and more control and more ability to do the terrible things to her kids that she wanted to do, that she wanted more control. She wanted to be able to literally duct tape their wrists and ankles together and hold them in a basement. Now, Ruby and Jody were arrested. Which is great, which is why the story broke, right? They both are being charged with many different child injury, child neglect, child abuse charges, which could potentially get them a good chunk of time behind bars, which we all would like to see. Her oldest daughter has been gathering up, with the internet's help, information from Reddit and YouTube on Connections, which is actually the sort of the mommy help group. Here's our advice. Here's how you can better yourself based in the Mormon faith. Connection, CONNEXIONS. So Jody and Ruby ran that together. And Ruby made it clear that Jody made Ruby a better mom. But I think it turned out that Jody made Ruby a better monster, which is unfortunate for the kids. Now, there's a lot of relief. There's a lot of good energy for the kids. There's a lot of, we want them safe. We want them healthy. We want them good, better, cared for. But now here comes the issues when it comes to, obviously, Ruby and Jody are going to plead not guilty, which will lead to a trial. And that's going to put all of these children back on the stand, potentially telling their story. And there's a lot of issues when it comes to lawyers and cops and the courts having conversations with children. Are they believable? Are they true? Children have fantastic imaginations. And there's been a lot of instances in trials where children are put on the stand after they have had meeting after meeting after meeting with child professionals who kind of work in that whole realm of preparing a child for a court system. And so they could be swayed, they could be told a story to say. So it's a very frustrating situation, because obviously that's hard, that's scary, there's too much there for these kids. Like, they don't deserve to be put on stand and questioned and all that stuff. They should just go live the best, happy, healing, full life that they should, that they could, that they need to. So it's all kind of like boiling down to what's going to happen next. Crystalline says that it's so sad what happened to those little babies. So extremely sad. And this was just one moment in time that we were able to kind of get a glimpse at, and we don't know what happened to the other kids. We don't know if there were other things that happened. You know, it's kind of like they've opened Pandora's box to all these terrible things that these children have gone through. Ruby was known to withhold breakfast before all the kids get their chores done, to withhold not just social media, but technology in general, and bedrooms. You know, the oldest son didn't have a bedroom for 7 months. So it's absolutely insane what Ruby is capable of doing. And I think we saw at a peak where a child said, at 12 years old, realizing that I need to do this to survive. And that's so disappointing. It's extremely disappointing, and it's a very terrible story. And I'm done talking about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's awful. It's really sad. It's really terrifying. And the biggest question for a lot of people right now is, how much of this goings-ons was Kevin aware of, the husband, because he is also the father of these children? Is he culpable? Was he a victim? I think he's fully responsible to make sure these kids are taken care of. And if he believed or thought that they were in danger or not in a safe space with their mother Ruby and Jody, then he should have called on them just immediately. You know, it's like if you have an accident with somebody and, you know, they bump their head on the corner of a table and something happens to them, like they're not breathing anymore, you don't just hide the body. Like, you call the cops. This was an accident. Like, an accident happened and this is the result. You don't help hide the body, you know, because that's what happens in movies and TV shows, and then we have a fun little story, and then we have like a Hulu series of 8 episodes. But in real life, you call the cops to protect your children. You call the cops if something happens. So why he didn't, why it took forever, why he thought that wasn't a good idea, maybe he did and we just don't know yet. I don't know. I wanted to talk about Vince Vintage is a creator. So Vince Vintage was stalked by a hacker in like one of the most insane ways I've heard in a long time. A well-known hacker set his sights on content creator Vince Vintage. So Vince is best known for like deep dive videos. Really good stuff. If you haven't checked out the channel yet, or if you don't know anything about them, I highly suggest Vince Vintage to, go take a peek. Really good content. And boy, God, this is wild. So he wanted to do an interview with a well-known hacker, and that set off a roller coaster of events that no one saw coming. And he ended up hiring a private investigator, a cyber harassment litigator, and a copyright attorney just to help with the online aspects of this hacker turned stalker. So this hacker actually helped hack into the U.S. military. Sanad, we'll call him for short. He decided to put all of his focus and energy on Vince after Vince made a video about Sanad and his hacking, even though Sanad turned down his interview request. So he said, no, I don't want to do this interview. And you know what? Forget about the whole situation altogether. People have told this story so many times, you don't need to tell it. Like, don't make the video. And Vince is like, oh, I'm going to make the video. Like, you don't have that control over me. And so he made the video, and immediately when it went up, Sanad started doing what he knows best, just being a jerk online. So we copyright claimed Vince's video, which sucks. Especially if it wasn't warranted, especially if he actually didn't steal content, especially if the content that he used that wasn't his original content was transformed, that, would fall under the correct use of copyright laws. What is it? What's the word? Yes, fair use. Thank you. So having a false copyright claim on your channel really, really sucks, and especially sucked for Vince. And then more and more copyright claims started coming in on videos that had nothing to do with Sinead, that were completely false copyright claims. And 3 of them get your channel removed from YouTube completely, which is terrible, because you don't have your YouTube channel, and so your almost 500,000 subscribers and your millions of views per video just go away. You're done. You're ended, which is not cool. And so Vince had to defend these false claims by sending Sinead, a convicted hacker, his full legal name and address, which is the YouTube process. So when you are copyright claimed, you can dispute it by saying, hey, this is fair use, this is transformative content, we use this amount of content, and you have to sign it, the legal named owner of the YouTube channel. And sometimes it depends on what it is, needs like an address and phone number, stuff like that. And so he had to give this man, the stranger, who was falsely claiming his content, his full legal name, which is bonkers, especially if you have made the decision to not use your full legal name on the internet. You shouldn't have to give a stranger, someone who is stalking and harassing you, has been aggressive. And when I say like, oh, he didn't just like send a copyright claim, it was tweet after tweet after tweet, hundreds to thousands, like a crap ton of at Vince Vintage, going so hard in a way that is so extremely scary. Comments on videos, copyright after copyright after copyright claim. It's a lot. It's too much. It's very bad. So Sinead was using a Proton email account, which is like really niche, and it's like really the level of encryption is like really good, so like you can't hack it and all that stuff. So like, of course, him as a hacker is going to use it, but he used a different name, and he messed up really quickly a little while later, and he's like, oh well, this person who copyright claimed you, I don't know who that is. Like, how would you know? How would you know I never said it? So it was one of those like, whoopsies, I called myself out. I caught myself. So Vince wanted to use his attorney's name, and YouTube said, absolutely not. You have to use your full legal name to dispute this claim, because when you dispute a claim, you're not going to YouTube about it. You're going to the person who claimed your video, which is bonkers. So, and YouTube was no help for Vince. YouTube was like, don't care, this is the process. And unfortunately, that's as much help as YouTube's going to do when it comes to stuff like this. They're not going to take responsibility for other people's actions. They have, the system set in stone, and that's the way it is, unless you have a big enough audience that is going to annoy YouTube on Twitter, Instagram, emails, over and over and over, to help that creator get copyright claims removed that are false, to, change information, to allow different information to be sent to them. If you have that level of community, if you have that many people that are going to be there for you, then sure. It's so very dark web. I didn't even have my chat up. I'm just like so into this story because it's so wild, because Sinead is crazy. And I'm going to say that out loud. He's a crazy person. So YouTube sucked for that. Very much so. Very, very much so. Let's see. So he was sending him tweets and comments and just going hard, freaking him out. And then what was the worst was when Sinead got like a burner phone or like a number changer, and started texting Vince Vintage's fiance as attempting to text her as Vince himself. So that was when the barrier got completely crossed, and he decided, we have to move. Like, we're in danger because we don't know what this person is capable of. You know, we don't know if he has anything to lose. And it turns out that he really didn't have anything at all. So he moved. He has all these, you know, lawyers and private investigators. And Vince finished his video by recognizing that he was able to get all of those, to get a new place to live, to get a private investigator and a litigator and a specialist and a this and a that and a this and a that, because he was able to make money throughout making videos, to have a big enough following to help YouTube fix some of the problems that they help create, and that not being able to do that can not just put your channel in danger, but your entire life. And so there's a lot of things that need to be changed, and YouTube should really take a look at it. So I encourage you, if you are listening to a creator when they say, you know, YouTube is not helping me, you can go and help that creator as well, especially if you care about that creator, if you watch their content constantly and they're saying, please help, like, please at YouTube about something real, like an actual problem. I highly suggest you support your creator that you support with your eyes in these types of issues, because one person is not enough. So if you follow smaller creators and they're having these types of issues, feel free to jump in and say, I will help you. I'll get on Twitter, I'll get on Instagram, I'll send an email as well, because it could just be that one extra tweet, that one extra email that YouTube says, okay, we have to do something. So that's what I suggest. If that ever happens and you see that, like, see people talking about it and they're a smaller creator and they don't have reach, they don't have an actual human on the phone at YouTube, definitely give them that support, especially if you care about them. If you're there every day with them, you know, or you have their notifications on, and when it pops through, you click. I know it's like you don't have to, but I definitely support doing that as well. So I know that we had some issues, so I'm going to save Rita Pangalangan and Larry King, not the Larry King, for next week. It's a tough story. So I'm going to save that for next week as well. Oprah Winfrey and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson are rich jerks at this point. So Oprah Winfrey and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson got on TikTok and Instagram side by side, all snuggled together, and they said, hey, by the way, we need all your help, humans out there watching, for Maui. We need to save Maui. So, and by the way that we can do it is if Dwayne and I'm Oprah in this instance, Dwayne and I put in to this brand new fund that we're creating to help save Maui and the residents of Maui, $5 million each. And then you guys can continue donating and raise this massive fund to give everyone a home again, to get everyone back on their feet, to help the world come together and support Maui. And like, we have been, as people, as us Lily's News watchers, we have been supporting Maui since the beginning, with our eyeballs, with our voices, with our retweets, with our shares, with our views. We have been doing nothing but asking questions and reaching out and sending, you know, the people who were able to sending the supplies and being able to be there for those of Maui. And so it's tough. It's tough when you see two really rich people asking us, not rich people, to give money when grocery prices are the size that they are. You know, it's very, let's just say they had a lot of backlash real quick. And a lot of it went directly to Oprah because of how much land she owns on Maui, which I believe is about 2,000 acres, how much money she has in her bank account. She's worth, what, like $3 billion? The allegations that Oprah hired private firefighters to protect her home and her land. The allegations, like I said, I don't know for sure, but I know that her land was not affected by the fire like other homes. So it's very interesting to see the woman who used to give out cars to everyone in her audience asking us to help her neighbors, the people she shares the land with. You know, the dust from one house can blow through her windows into another's home. So she's there, rich as can be. $5 million? To us, to a normal person, that's like $5. That's a drop in the bucket. That's like a Panera sandwich, right? That's lunch for two. Could you imagine being a multi-billionaire and asking other people, normal people, the people who work 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs for survival, to give money into their fund, not knowing where exactly that money's going to, because we all know not all celebrities are good. There was a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of PR moves going on with this, and I don't think it's over. It's not done. It didn't just happen. We all had our remarks, and then it ended. There's a lot more going on, and something's going to pop with this, and it's unfortunate that Maui turned to a backdrop for Oprah fundraising and getting all teary-eyed, when it should have been still what happened. We need answers, and we need the people who make the decisions to make the right decisions on how to fix it, not asking us for money. That's not it. Like, whoever told you that was wrong, fired. To see Oprah standing there and imagine, like, if I imagine she was just talking to me, like, I need you to donate money. Bitch, what? I'm sorry. You want my money? I don't have any. What do you want me to do? I don't have any. And she barely... I'm glad that people kind of put their foot down. There weren't a lot of donations, a couple of thousands here and there. It's sad that if that money is going to go into the restructuring, the re-infrastructuring of Maui, but we don't know that. This is new. You know, you're not showing me anything trustworthy by saying I donated $5 million. Like, ma'am, you have 2,000 acres of land. Why are you not housing people on actual, grass that still grows instead of these dirt patches that they're what? Make it make sense. I don't understand. This isn't making sense. I don't know who told you to do this. I don't know whose papers you signed like 3 years ago, and then this was the outcome, but this was unfortunate. And for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, for someone who is very outspoken about, giving and being what I can pull from my memory as a giver, it's embarrassing. They should be embarrassed. Embarrassing. What else? Theo Von got scammed. Theo Von is you all know Theo. If y'all know Theo Von. He came out with in one of his latest podcasts. It's about 10 minutes of him explaining what happened with his money. And it was basically the man who was in control of getting the sponsorships for his podcast stole all that money And he gradually started paying Theo Von less and less and less and less. And Theo Von started talking about it. And other podcasters within that same network were experiencing the same diminishing payment, even though these sponsorships have been set in stone, signed, sealed, delivered, payments received they do it about a year, 8 to 12 months in advance. And then Theo Von was getting less and less and less, even though the amount of sponsorships he was getting was the same and potentially even more than normal, because he's been popping off. So he put this man's name, and it's a sketchy game when it comes to working within a network, because you don't have full control. You can't make all the decisions on your own. There's someone else making the decisions, and you sign the paperwork to let them make the decisions. But the paperwork is an agreement, and so when the person who's supposed to give you the money doesn't give you the money, that's wrong. And they should be called out, and they should be put on blast, and they should stand up and say, whoops, and not try to make another deal, including stocks. And what a mess, poor Theo Von. If you want to see it, that's really it. I hope he goes, I hope he breaks out of all the contracts and goes on his own and stands tall. He's got enough viewers. He's got enough support. He does like touring shows. I think he would be a-okay. And I think he would get even more support if he made it clear that it was him, it's him, it's his team, he can create his own media company or something like that. It's very interesting to see, people who are so massive in the podcasting world, having these types of issues with networking, with network companies that put you in their network and basically make money off of you. It's very interesting. Let's see. Alex Murdaugh. This is really like the last topic of the day. What is happening? So Alex Murdaugh is a murderer. Cool. Good start, Lilly. So Alex Murdaugh, it was like a year ago, it was a big thing. The Alex Murdaugh trial. You have seen his face everywhere: Hulu, Netflix, YouTube. It was the trial of the century, not the Johnny Depp trial. So Alex Murdaugh was on trial for the murder of his wife and his son, and in South Carolina. And it was like a 3-week trial turned 6-week trial, and it was a big deal. Alex Murdaugh was a lawyer in the small town. He was a massive lawyer, and it turned out to be that he was like crooked and corrupt, and he financially gained off of cases, getting payouts. So he would work like accidents, and people who would get the payouts from the accidents never saw the payouts, because they went into Alex Murdaugh's bank account, and potentially there were drugs involved. But from the get, I felt that he was completely guilty of the murder of his wife and son on his property. And the jury ended up agreeing that he was guilty and sent him to jail. So right after the trial, there was really nothing in the news, just more stuff, more docu-series stuff happening. And then this past week, we hear that the clerk, the court clerk, which is a voted-in position chosen by the people of the area, wrote a book. Which is weird, because this is a person who's supposed to be like non-biased and just like there to kind of make sure the jury has lunch and like paper, and like a book to read, and make sure like the court is fine. Like there's really nothing more that this person is supposed to do. But she wrote a book going through all of the issues with the jury, going through all the issues with the trial, breaking down like this small town relations aspect. Don't buy the book. Do not support this book. Hey, Glenn, how are ya? Don't buy the book. Do not support this book. You can buy it if you want, but don't buy it. I don't think it's really any good. So she writes this book. And when she writes this book, the defense team for Alex Murdaugh clicks. We can get a new trial with this, because in this book, she remarks that there were conversations that may have been a little too much conversation between her and a juror. Now, because this book came out, after this book came out, a couple of jurors reached out to the defense team. Now, the jurors are unknown. We don't have their names. It's not like a list of jurors. They're private citizens that were summoned to jury duty, and they did their civil duty by serving on a jury, and we didn't see their faces. We don't know who they are, and that's how it's supposed to be. So a couple of the jurors came out and approached the defense team, allegedly saying that this court clerk, the clerk of court, had way too many conversations, way too in-depth conversations. There was a juror who would have a conversation with her like in the bathroom, away from everybody else, and then was told that no one could know what that conversation was about. There was too much conversation about the trial. Where do you stand? Don't let Alex Murdaugh trick you. Don't let them lie to you. Don't watch their body language. Saying things allegedly like that to a jury is completely inappropriate and jury tampering and not legal. Well, I guess they're not legal, and which could result in a brand new trial, a second trial for Alex Murdaugh. It could completely nullify the first trial, and Alex Murdaugh could potentially stand a second trial for the murder of his wife and son. And so this is where things, it's just we just have questions as of right now, because we don't know exactly if anything is true or not. We don't know because all we have are a couple of like signed affidavits. We don't have like a whole, like we don't have the jury, like each juror individually on the stand, like swear. I mean, they swear on the truth for the affidavit, but it could be completely different when they're on the stand. There was so many weird things. One juror worked on a monkey farm, which the clerk basically doxed her because there was an intense story about a Facebook post on a town page, which was potentially this juror's ex-husband, but this juror had 3 different no contact orders against her ex-husband and has been divorced for many, many years. And then she said this juror works at this place, at this farm. It was absolutely berserk. It didn't make any sense. And she went too far and just about doxed this juror in this book. So there's so many questions, like how did she get past an ethics team to actually write this book? Is it even legal for her to write a book? Was there a book deal? Did she self-publish? When did you think about writing a book? Was this planned? Did you get on this trial so you could write a book about this trial? Were you actually talking to the jurors? Because if you were talking to the jurors, how come no other jurors spoke up and said, this person who's now supposed to be talking to us is talking to us about the trial? Why didn't anyone say anything? But also, why were you also talking to them? What? Don't talk. It's so frustrating because I watched every minute of this trial and I don't want to do it again. It's horrifying. It's disgusting. There were too many leaks. It was a messy trial, and I don't like it. Now, I like the judge, Judge Newman, who is actually the judge of the other story that I'll save to next Friday because it's a very heavy story. The judge in that case, that trial as well. But Judge Newman... So the plan for the defense team of Alex Murdaugh is actually to request to put the appeals, because they're in the appeal system right now. They're in the appeals process, like, hey, we have this judgment and I want to appeal because of this. So they're asking to pause, like put a pause on the appeals process as of right now and turn it into a mistrial. We need a new trial process because of this person writing this book, saying these things in this book, talking to this jury, talking to this talking to this juror, talking to that juror, having no one come forward and say that there's this conversation happening. Also, the jurors were like split in different rooms, like men in one room, women in another room, which was so wild. It doesn't make any sense. So I have a lot of questions, and I'm excited to see what happens. But at the same time, it's so annoying that the entire world, essentially, there was people all over the world with their eyeballs on this trial, watching this case, and she could potentially throw it all away because she wanted to write a book. Because she wanted to write a book. I've always wanted, she did an interview. I saw an interview with her. She said, I always wanted to write a book. But I always wanted to. And then after the trial, I was like, And there's pages in the legal documents from the defense team to propose a new trial from the book, and it's written in the weirdest way. When she refers to anything that happens to the jury, she says we, including herself. Like when we went out to Moselle, the property, to see this, ma'am, you are not the jury. Ma'am, you are not the jury. You are not a juror. You are supposed to make sure they are fed and warm and braked. A big moment was when one of the most uncomfortable things was there was note in the motion from the defense team, which hit the media before it hit the courts, which is interesting, kind of like Lizzo, kind of like the lawsuit against Lizzo. It hit the media before it hit the courts. It was about deliberations. When the jury was in the deliberations room, they were threatened, essentially, that even though throughout the entire trial, they were given smoke breaks for those who smoked, and then David says, but if I wrote a book, I could give Oprah millions to help her gardeners, cooks, etc. Oh my gosh, Oprah would love that. I'm sure she would love to expand her literal farm, and then be hand-fed the fruits of your labor. I'm sure she would love that. She would love it so much, and you can put it right into the entertainment's is it EI something? It's EI something. IE something. The foundation, and it'll definitely go to saving Maui for sure. 100%. There's nothing crooked or sketchy about it at all. Poor Oprah. She got caught up in something. Her little face, she's standing next to Dwayne, and she's just like, oh, we're so sad about Maui. Yikes. So one of the biggest moments in the whole, she wrote a book thing, the defense team made a note that there was, in Maui something, that there was a threat basically from the clerk to say, hey, even though we've given the smokers breaks throughout the trial, everyone was able to have a smoke break when they needed one, you will not be getting smoke breaks until you finalize the deliberations and come up with a conviction, yes or no, yay or nay, did he do it, did he not, innocent or guilty, which is like a threat. And then she allegedly made mention that if they don't figure it out tonight by 11 or something, y'all are gonna have to go stay in a hotel, even though they were not informed that and were not prepared. They had no bags, they had no toothbrush, they had no deodorant. And if you're in a room with a lot of people in South Carolina, y'all need deodorant. You weren't prepared, so you're just gonna be randomly thrown to a hotel to stay the night and then to start deliberations again in the next morning because you can't go and have contact with anybody. So it was basically like, figure it out now, which is wild. So I'm really interested to see where this is going to go. I will be watching this like a freaking hawk. Also, there was breaking news. You know the murderer guy who escaped in Pennsylvania? Escaped prison by wall walking. He walked up the wall. So he's there was a big manhunt. Did anyone see if he was caught yet? Did he get caught? Let's see. I don't think he got caught. yet. But anywho, that's that. Sorry, it was a little shaky in the start just because we had some tech things, but it is all good now. So I will be back on Friday. I hope you guys had a good night. Have a good weekend. Be good. I'm done, right? Yeah, I think I'm done. That's it. I don't have anything else to say. I can't say anything more. There's too much. There's already too much to say. So I'm going to go. Have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next Friday at 5 p.m. And if there's anything you want me to talk about, let me know. Tell me in the comments or go to Insane Games TV on Instagram. All the links are in the description. So I'll be over on Instagram, pop in a few days. You can send like a message or something, like a DM if you have anything that you want me to look into or talk about. So other than that, I will see you guys next week at 5 p.m. Thanks for being here. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. I love you guys. Thank you, David. Be good. Be kind. I will see you next Friday. Yes? Deal. Thanks. Bye.